and yellow snow is not good.
And you would know because there's a lot of snow in Georgia just recently. Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting episode of the UnDisrupted Podcast. Season 9, Adam. 9 times. When you think of 9, what do you think of?
9?
Number 9?
Yeah, I just want to be like a Ric Flair, like 9 time, woo! Yeah.
Yes, they're still putting us on the air somehow, and we do want to, of course, give a shout out to All for Ed for continuing to put us on the air. As much as we make fun, they are a great group to support a lot of the work we're doing, and of course, Adam now is an employee of said group, so he really has to watch what he says.
Yeah, full time. Got a brand new CEO now. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Amy Lloyd. So happy to have her.
Awesome.
On board.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. We're doing some amazing stuff now. Really happy to see where we go moving forward.
But enough about that. It's time for a really serious opening debate, and that is, what is something from your childhood that your kids will never really fully understand or appreciate?
Oh, it's so funny you mentioned that. I was having a conversation with my wife about this the other day, and it's something so simple as a kid calling the house and then asking to speak to your child. Like, I remember as a kid, like, calling my friend's house, like, oh, can I speak with Patrick? And, the mom or dad were like, oh, yeah, Adam's on the phone. Kids don't have that now. They bypass the middleman. It goes directly to the kid. I mean, my daughter, her friends call her all the time. I don't even know who she talks to on the phone. They're good kids, I'm assuming.
Do they make apps for that? Like a parenting app that'll help you?
But yeah, they totally bypass the middleman now.
They do, and I was thinking the other day, they don't go up to your door. I mean, you don't have random pop-ins anymore. You used to have the neighbors that would come over and like knock and borrow a cup of sugar or whatever. Now it's like text the neighbor and see if they've got whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny how that's changed, just a little bit of that, because then you'll get these unexpected conversations because it's all texting.
Wow. So what about you?
My go-to one is always Blockbuster, because I tried to explain it to my kids again the other day, and they're like, "So, Dad, you had to drive to this place." Yeah, I go, "You drive this place, and then you went and what?" And he's like, "And then you look through the bins to see if they had it, and then what did you do?" He's like, "Well, if they didn't have it, then you went to this return bin, and then they're like." And they're like, and what? And I was like, yeah. And then you would take it, and they're like, and then what would happen? I was like, well, then if you didn't bring it back in 48 hours, they charge you like, it was like $200 or something
crazy.
They started raising it at the end when they were falling apart at the end. They're like, Blockbuster's like, oh, raise the rates because we'll get more money that way.
Oh, or having what about the separate rewinder that you could have to rewind the VHS tapes before you took them back? It was like a separate thing.
Yes.
You didn't want to run out your motor or whatever.
You burn out the headers. Yeah. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
But enough about us. Let's invite our guests. Jed Stefanowicz rhymes with
Bananowicz.
And he is the Director of Digital Learning and Innovation. At what school are you at?
So I'm at the Neshoba Regional School District in Massachusetts, kind of a northern central Massachusetts.
Awesome. What was something from your childhood that your kids will never appreciate?
Well, I totally forgot about the VHS rewinder.
That's amazing.
The specific box. I didn't have such a thing. But I do remember the sticker, Be Kind, Rewind.
Oh, yes.
That stick it
with
on
smiley face, yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was like the nice price on records. Also something our kids won't remember. If you were buying records at Caldor and Bradley's once they were at the discount bin. I think I was working in a classroom with a teacher, and I referenced Frogger. And I knew this was third graders, and I knew they weren't going to know Frogger. What blew me away was the teacher turned to me and said, "What's Frogger?" So we're talking about the second generation jumps right there. So that was depressing.
Oh yeah, yeah. My kids were like, you mean Crossy Roads? And I'm like,
exactly.
It's not quite Crossy Roads.
Okay, yeah.
Jed, we know you do a lot of work with digital literacy, and I feel like it's kind of having a rebirth. It's having a moment.
I hope so.
Finally, maybe, should we say?
Yeah.
Thank you, AI, for something there, because it's interesting how you can almost put a layer on. When the mobile devices came out, there was a whole thing about how do we use them the right way, too much screen time. Now it's AI. It's all the same. It's kind of repeating in some ways. So where are you at in this world with AI and digital literacy?
Well, it's interesting post-COVID, seeing where, what the response was, whether it was a back, hopefully it was a back swing, not a back slide, kind of a rejection, put your Chromebooks away and let's rebuild culture, which I totally agree with, right?
Yeah.
But then did it swing back? Because we had a lot of people really poised to do some innovative things pre-COVID, right. And then everything shifted. But here we are, back in some ways, some really traditional, stunted ways, and if a pandemic didn't change seismically our business, nothing's going to. We've been waiting, and we get these waves where we think technology is going to be the way to do it. I mean, we're all of a similar age band. where we were students when home computers arrived.
Got some snow on the, what'd you say?
Snow on the roof.
Snow on the roof, yes, coming in. Even Adam. Get the gray.
A student at the arrival of home computers. I became a teacher at the arrival of classroom computers. I had an Apple IIe.
Ooh, worth money nowadays.
We all died of dysentery with organ.
Yes.
I became so I taught third grade for 22 years, and then I became a digital learning coach at the arrival of a pandemic. So what was a very unpopular position, suddenly I was the cat's pajamas because you were in need. And then I became the director of digital learning and innovation at the arrival of generative AI, as we know it now, knowing that it's been around forever.
Right.
All these things you think are going to be seismic shifts, but really, have they really shifted traditional practice? And if a pandemic didn't do it, all these other arrival technologies, I think, are not going to be. So all the more reason to, you're talking about the phone call with the parents. If you remember when the parent would try to make a little small talk with you while the kid was coming downstairs? That was the worst.
Uncomfortable conversations.
But it was really important.
Yes.
It's like all those little subtle and
Yes.
micro, lessons of how to have a conversation with someone. I don't know if that happened to you. Being mistaken for your mom on the phone was always the worst.
That was the thing that I was talking to my wife about, and I was saying the skills that we developed those skills of talking to an adult.
100%.
Because your parents were like, oh, make sure you say this or say that. So let me ask you this, so with the technology that we see happening and kids having immediate access, what skills do you think they are needing to develop more of as they spend more time on devices?
So, I don't like to use the term digital natives, but that whole idea of there's this presumption that because technology is ubiquitous for students and new teachers, that there's going to be this either automaticity of learning well with technology or teaching well with technology. And that's the thing where you've got, a brand new teacher who might be of a very technological generation, but they don't have the 30 years of teaching experience that their team member does. So you've got that new teacher who might be intimidated by that subject matter expert teacher who's afraid to partner up. You might have that veteran teacher who's afraid or intimidated by that new teacher who is not afraid to press the buttons and make the slides, and even just intimidated enough not to ask, oh, how did you make that transition? How did you make that site? So it's those partnerships, I think, are the key. Is you build those partnerships, that models for the students too, and then you go right to the students. It's happening in my district where we have students building digital portfolios while teachers are building their teacher web pages, and they're both basically doing the same thing, which is starting with a Google site template, right? People love it and hate it for the same reason, because there are not a lot of features, not a lot of buttons, but it's
simple and gets it done.
Right. And then, but it's amazing to have, the teachers who are very, very close to the template, and then you have students do a similar project, and within 10 minutes they're theirs don't resemble. So there's a little bit of reverse peer pressure. I'm trying to sneak into it too, but all of that builds that digital literacy. It's the eliminating the barriers, eliminating the fear, and then really trying to articulate what's the need. For some teachers or for some students, it's going to be really the operational support, and that's kind of a framework in my book, Beyond the Bulletin Board. I'll hold it up for the camera.
Yep. Those of you watching on the YouTube stream.
Beyond the Bulletin Board, it's called Crafting a Culture of Content Creation. It doesn't say technology, it doesn't include AI. It mentions all of it. And it is really leveraging technology to shift beyond the bulletin board. But it's not saying to replace the bulletin board. It's looking at a teacher who does that same winter poetry bulletin board, the same collage, the art teacher who puts the same display out, and honors that because they've done it for 20 years because it's great. It's pedagogically sound. So my in is to say, how can we enhance that? How can we expand the audience? How can we maybe make that interactive? If you're that committed to the cardboard trifold, okay, but can we, or right? Can we include a piece where you're increasing the audience? Can we think about that cardboard as, if you're really trying to, philosophically, that's your publishing. Let's rethink and reimagine what publishing is all about, and then how do you make that public? And then, because if you're lucky, those poems are going to maybe make it home. If you're double lucky, maybe they'll make it on the fridge. But
next level, yes.
Right. Or can you immediately make it a worldwide where students become real, let's pretend the real world exists. So that's a framework in this book. I call it the Design for Digital Literacy Framework. And so Adam, we'll do this too. Let's say you find out next week, you're going to do an activity.
Okay.
Here we go. Next
Right
week,
here on the podcast, folks, live.
there's a sudden need and you wake up and you're subbing for 10th grade, chemistry or something all of a sudden. So I'm going to give you these 4 cards because I would contend in the framework for the Beyond the Design for Digital Literacy model is 4 components: instruction, operation, creativity, wellness. Pretty much whatever we're talking about in technology and education, it's going to fall within one of those 4 buckets. But I find that if I said to you, stack those in order of your urgency, if you're a brand new teacher tomorrow, not a 22-year-old teacher, but you yourself, where's your support? Is it going to be the instructional? Is it the operational? Is it
Right.
So that's an interesting thing. I won't make you reveal your choices. What's interesting sometimes is not which is your first, but which is your last. And that's hard to, because it doesn't mean you don't care about it. It just means you have to put one thing.
I could hazard a guess is what most teachers would probably pick wellness.
What do you think?
I think wellness is probably last because I feel like teacher burnout is such a thing because we don't prioritize our wellness. And I say we because I'm included myself in this. So yes, we focus a lot on instruction and operations, and I think creativity is probably the other one. If I had to guess, there's certain teachers that
I would say, yep.
That's
you nailed it. That's pretty much what I find. What's interesting is I then say, okay, take that stack, restack in order of what you think your building or your district's priorities are, and I get and then I
operational. It's all operation. Yeah.
Guess which one is still at the bottom of the stack? Still wellness.
Yeah.
And it's not because we don't care about it. In fact, those are the questions principals are getting. My child's on their Chromebook that you gave them at 11 o'clock at night, or how are you dealing with phones, or they can't get out of this chat group, or those are the conversations we need to have. They are having. It's not about digital citizenship because that, gets lumped into carrying your Chromebook and protecting your password. Right. And it always ends up also being a discussion of who's deploying the common sense lesson, who's doing the lesson, not and that becomes a very narrow conversation. Instead of asking who wants to be involved in that conversation, then it's health, then it's parents, then it's admin, so a wellness approach I think is interesting. But it's a good framework, I think, to really articulate where do you need to get started. Then once you kind of figure out one of those 4 categories, steps along the way to turn those into action steps. How do you, if you're at a 7 out of 10, what do you need to become an 8?
Move up a notch, yeah.
That's it, one piece at a time. But if you're writing your student learning goal and you just want to, improve your technology use for the year, that's way too ambiguous and way too lofty. But if it's, I want to, focus on creativity or rethinking publishing or reimagining what it looks like to connect and engage students in ways, there you go. And that's what this book and really my work has always been around as a teacher, a coach, and admin.
And I forgot to say that we are live at FETC, so if you hear background noise, that's what that is. We're in the media room.
We're directly next to a water dispenser. So
if someone
fair
has to
warning
go,
if someone pours water.
If you start hearing water, we'll know.
It is water. We promise.
Yeah, so we're not. This isn't live at the FETC urinal. What does a director of digital learning and innovation, when you come to a conference, what is something that you're looking for? What are the big things in an event like FETC, which brings, of course, people from all over the world? What are you hoping to get out of this?
That's a great question, because sometimes people in my role are also the top of the IT ladder in their buildings. I'm very fortunate to be in a district where I'm literally in a different floor. My role is in the central office. I'm in the teaching and learning office. Okay. So our curriculum team is small, and I'm one of that 4-person team. So I'm truly having those curriculum discussions and the leadership discussions that way. I'm not downstairs sourcing panels and switches and phones, because luckily we have a department that's doing that. I used to do more
of
the
fun stuff.
Oh, I
still breaking things. I like breaking things.
I still bring home the lightsabers and and all the
that's
cool
also
swag. But so yeah, I'm really looking to have those conversations, looking at tools, looking at specifically this year. One of the things I did in my district was I was part of a team developing a digital portfolio for our district. So just like every other district around, we have a portrait of a graduate.
Right.
But how do you peel that poster and turn it into something that's actionable? Talking about if you've spent 2 years identifying those learner competencies, how do they reach really the instructional guides and plans and the instruction itself to the degree where students know what they're doing, how is it connected, and then how are they demonstrating it. So creating a digital portfolio for us this year was really an important way to do that. And so I'm looking for those kind of conversations too.
Yeah, I really love that idea because when you have these portfolios in place, we have kids graduate from high school. Yes, you graduated. Yes, you have your diploma. Yes, you did all this. But what product are they walking out with after all these years of school?
100%.
Yes, it's the woman that gets on the wall, but what did you do? What did you create?
What did you learn? Yeah.
How can you show this mastery beyond that? Because there's some kids who won't do well on various assessments. So what other way can they kind of demonstrate their mastery or their content or what they know, and kind of moving beyond the bulletin board and be able to share that, because we have a generation of kids that are used to sharing things online. If it doesn't happen online, it didn't really happen.
Right.
So how
content creating.
Yeah. How can we make that shift from, the traditional turning in a multiple choice assessment to getting that content where a student wants to share it on their social media platforms? TikTok may be going away tomorrow. Who knows? But
as of this podcast, it's still here.
Something else will take its place. I mean, there's always going to be some kind of platform. So my question to you is, how can we get to where more districts are coming up with ways that students can not only demonstrate mastery through portfolios, but then demonstrate mastery where they can now share it on their social media platforms to show, hey, it's cool, if you will, to share my content. I'm going to show everybody my Riz. And Skibbity.
The Rizzler, yes. It sounds so bad when we say it. I've never felt so old in my life until I go to my kids. I go, kids, no cap. We're going to have this conversation.
Like when my parents were like saying,
low key.
That's dope. It's like, Mom, Dad, don't do that.
Right.
The Gen Z handbook of language.
I love the question because what you're really asking is, instead of preparing kids for the real world someday, you're really asking, how are we acknowledging, or I heard someone say it, pretend the real world exists in school. Acknowledge the real world exists in school. Acknowledge that the things that you're asking, how do we create those channels? They're already there. Kids are already doing it. And I would say, any building you go to, it's full of kids, and there are going to be kids who are in those buildings who can't wait to leave school at the end of the day to get to their channels, to get to their content creation spaces. You've got students who are monetizing it. They've got, it's either a side hustle or they have an audience already. Mm-hmm. So it's acknowledging that and finding ways. And it's not the students. It's not even the veteran teachers. It's the veteran practices that don't incorporate those ways to reimagine what publishing looks like. It doesn't give that authentic audience. And what it begins with is just the practice of, give second graders an iPad, and if they're doing their, I'm an expert on doing a cartwheel, have them record it, and because guarantee you're going to hear a different voice if a student has an iPad and they're holding up to each other. And it's not, how do I find time in the curriculum? If you're doing Bridges Math, you're doing Number Corner as your opening thing. You've got 2 students absent, right? Give an iPad to a group and say, teach me back what we just did in our Number Corner. Teach me back that mini lesson. Do that instant replay, because tomorrow the 2 kids who are absent, or they're going to watch the video. So they have a purpose. I would have needed that as a knucklehead second grader. It would have given an authentic audience, an authentic purpose, and the teacher can actually use those for, parent conferences, sharing that next year to launch that lesson. But all those things begin to build the authentic practice of content creation for real. Because then you've got those middle schoolers who are going to say, oh, you want to learn how to do this? They know what a good tutorial sounds like. And
they watch them all the time.
Oh, yeah. They're going to hold that iPad up and they're going to go, hey, guys, today I'm going to show you how to do. And you hear a different voice. We're always talking about voice and choice, right?
Yeah.
But give them the tool, give them the real audience and purpose, and you're going to get that voice every time.
We talked about this yesterday in our coaches session that we were doing. Adam and I were doing is like the resistant teacher. You mentioned, one of the barriers to trying something new is sometimes like, well, it's not in the curriculum, or I don't have time. What do you see? What are those big barriers that you encounter, and then how do you overcome them with teachers?
Yeah, I hate to say fixed mindset, but it's fixed practices, fixed mindset, and it's just fear, or sometimes it's ego, right? I thought I thought I was awesome. As a third grade classroom teacher, I had a makerspace in the corner of the room, and it looked like a recycled corner junk
It's just a bunch of stuff, yeah.
right? And I had a student who was not at a third grade level, but he loved that makerspace. And it was when it was that rotation turn, he went over and he made a bug catcher. And I thought I was so cool because I made what I called a blueprint. And that blueprint was, well, what did you make? What was your thinking? Capture the design thinking. What I didn't realize was I had made a worksheet. And I had turned this creation moment for him into a writing task, and taking this blueprint, worksheet, graphic organizer, which was meant to be, right?
Yeah.
And then it turned into a power struggle. How many times have you seen, or yourselves as educators, gotten into power struggles over a graphic organizer, of all things?
Right.
Something that's meant to be a scaffold, and it's like, well, I'm going to check back in 5 minutes, and that first box has to be.
You better have it filled it out.
And
Yeah.
I totally wrecked that moment for this student because it just shut him down right away. Luckily, I said, you know what, let's just stop for today. Tomorrow morning, we're going to revisit. And it was when we were using Seesaw for the way Seesaw was intended to be used.
Yeah.
And I just said, press record, just tell me about your bug catcher.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Perfect.
he
Yeah.
held it up. He said, this is the light. This is where it comes in. This is where it catches. This is where the feeding station is. And then that became his rough draft. The idea of, even if it's video, this is nothing new. This is camcorder time. But just, we have the ability to press record in Book Creator, in any tool we have. And let's not save that for only publishing as the output.
Yeah.
Let that be the planner, because then that student can use that as his organizer. It doesn't have to be a written organizer. Why are we turning things into writing projects when they're really just meant to be thought collectors?
I even like the idea of then if the kid takes that and then you can take the audio from that recording, dump it into an AI tool to then
Transcribe it.
Make that graphic organizer, however, like take my thoughts, organize it into. I mean, that's where you're really co-authoring, because if I'm not necessarily the strongest organizer as far as writing goes, but I have it all in my head, I can verbally tell you what I'm doing and what's going on, but I struggle with the writing component. I could use a ChatGPT, a Gemini, a Magic School AI, a Canva, whatever that case may be, and say, hey, make this into a process, make this into a graphic organizer. And I think the kids are like, oh, wow, it becomes a little easier now. It's that nurturing here. I'm nurturing you, and I'm giving you the support to teach you the skill sets that you could use or could not use. But hey, here's an option.
I wonder, you go through that partner where that's when we talk about thought partner.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. You produce this piece at the end, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a book, whether it's a blog. Does that mean you didn't write it? Does it mean you're not a strong writer? You might not be mechanically the strong writer, but it changes the way of what it means to write, what it means to publish, what it means to create, what it means to compose.
I noticed in your cards there you have wellness as one of your things, and we wrap up our show every episode by asking our guests, what is something you do to keep yourself undisrupted? So in this busy world with all the things you do and on the role you have and all the things you have to manage, how do you keep yourself centered? What's a strategy or something you use as a leader to kind of keep yourself well?
Dumb jokes, first of all. I don't like dad jokes. I don't like that. And we shouldn't joke around because today is a serious day. You heard who passed away yesterday? The inventor of autocorrect. His funeral scheduled for tomato. It's the dumbest, right?
I was like, did somebody die? You had me there. Okay, good. I'm stealing
I
that
saw the
one.
flag flying at half mast, but I didn't know that was for that as well.
Yeah.
So,
It wouldn't be half mast though. It would be. You'd have to say something that's like
Right.
half. Yes. Okay.
So because immediately you're just, and I'm told I have a telltale smirk that my team and people know, but I try to be really just very real, very pragmatic, and conversations, whether it's at a leadership level or at a retreat or at a workshop. Yesterday I did an AI workshop here for 2 hours, and it was really just meant to be, let's get past the wine tasting of 101 AI tools. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to be a wine pairing. So instead of rapid fire speed dating of all these AI products, it was really, let's take fewer but lead with the use case. And that's that when I'm working with teachers, those are the kind of conversations where it works. It makes sense. There's an in because it's leading with their practice, not leading with, hey, I want to train you on how to use this tool.
There's a new book right there, wine pairing with your AI apps. I hear it. Yes, this goes well with a nice Pinot and ChatGPT.
The voice of a proprietor.
Yes, exactly. Well, where can people find out more about you and your work and the books that you have out?
Yeah, this is Beyond the Bulletin Boards, my third book. Check it jedpd.com, as in jedprofessionaldevelopment.com. You can find me there. I'm waning away from the socials because, just because.
Yes.
And but that's a good way to find me. I'm at Neshoba Regional School District, and just find me online. I'm out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to our listeners out there. Be sure to subscribe and like and give us that review there. Helps us get up in the rankings. So, yes, atone for your sins. Please go in and give us that review.
Yeah, like, subscribe, share.
Everything you can do.
Taking a turn.
It has, yes.
Tell your mom and them about us.
Yeah. This has been the UnDisrupted Podcast, brought to you by All for Ed. He's Adam, and you can follow him at AskAdam3 on the socials.
Yeah. And he's Carl, and you can follow him and I totally spaced on what it is now.
Hooker Tech.
Hooker Tech, yes, Hooker Tech. I didn't know you were.
I'm transitioning from Twix to Bluesky, and so there's a whole story there. But Hooker Tech on most platforms now.
So we congratulate you on your transition over to
Thank you.
And K-12 leaders. You can also see him there
at Carl and K-12 leaders. Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we are better together,
and we are better UnDisrupted.
Thanks, guys.